I am a lifelong fan of Nintendo, and I've been playing all of their consoles for years. I even have really strange devices like the Super Nintendo exercise bike, and I've even made videos about the IQ Player, a Chinese-only Nintendo system that was only ever released in China. Now look, folks, just because I really like Nintendo doesn't mean I can't look at the company critically, and ever since I saw that whole announcement thing that they were showing off for the Nintendo Switch, I really wanted to kind of get into the company and understand what they were making. Now personally, I went and pre-ordered a Switch because, well, of course I would. I've owned the Virtual Boy, why the heck wouldn't I own the Nintendo Switch? But I started to think about what other people looked at when they looked at the Switch. Are consumers really gonna buy this thing, or are they gonna leave it by the wayside? Well, let's first start off with taking a look at the first couple of positives that this system has going for it. The first really cool feature is that this is a home console that happens to also be portable, which is really nice. You're going to be able to take really big experiences like Skyrim on the go, which is really the first time we've ever been able to do stuff like that. Of course, we've had other portable video game systems, but nothing quite like this, and nothing with this much power. And even though Skyrim is a fairly old game, it's still a pretty big and fairly awesome game to have, and especially as something you can play on a bus, on a plane, or even when you're waiting in line at the bank. Nintendo also announced tons of really interesting games that are going to be available on the platform, which I'm looking forward to. Zelda, obviously, being a big one, though we're going to talk about that one a little later as well. Mario Odyssey, Super Bomberman R, which I am super excited for because I didn't even expect to hear about a new Bomberman game ever again. And another game I'm actually kind of excited about is seeing a new re-release of Mario Kart 8 Deluxe, because even though it's probably going to be largely the same racing game that we saw on the Wii U, the fact that they're improving the battle mode means the world to me, and that's really important. The biggest positive I could possibly say about the Switch is that this feels like the smartest next step to the evolution of Nintendo consoles after coming out of the Wii U. The Wii U wasn't exactly very popular and it didn't do too well in the market, and there are multiple reasons for that which I'm not really going to dive into right here. But one thing I do want to say is that the Wii U always felt like a tablet gaming device that you couldn't leave your house with just because it had to be tethered really close to the Wii U console itself. And that's really unfortunate. But with this Switch, it really feels like this is what the Wii U should have been the whole time. A console that not only duplicates itself as a home system, but as a portable device all in the same go. And for me, I'm very excited for those prospects. Now, with the positives out of the way, let's get into the negatives, because folks, there's a couple here. Now, I'm not going to pick ones that are just personal opinions or nitpicks about the system. I'm going to pick out specific problems that I believe are going to be problems for a majority of gamers, because this is not a console made just for me, it's a console made for a whole bunch of people. And these are the problems that I've identified so far. Negative number one, the Nintendo Switch doesn't have a bundled game. Now, on the outset, this doesn't seem like a big deal because we've had other consoles get released without bundled games, but it actually is a far more serious problem. The PlayStation 4 and Xbox One were not just gaming consoles, they're also media centers to some extent. They're able to play movies on Blu-ray, they're able to watch movies on Netflix, and do a bunch of other things. And while I assume the Nintendo Switch will grow to have additional features and abilities, from the get-go, it's really being sold as a video game console alone. So without a bundled game, people are going to have to buy this system and then buy a game directly after that. That's really unfortunate. And because you've got those really neat Joy-Con motion controls built into it, you really should have been throwing in 1-2 Switch with the console so that people could experience what this system is all about. But I'll get more about that later on. Let's go to the second negative. Negative number two, the battery life sucks. As this system is supposed to be a portable video game console as well as a home-based console, they've stated that the system's battery itself lasts about 2.5 hours to 6 hours depending on what you're doing. Now, they specifically stated on their website that Zelda lasts 3 hours on a charge. That's not great. It's not horrible, but it's not great. 3 hours means that you're going to be able to go on a bus somewhere and play the game console for 3 hours, but if your bus ride is any longer than 3 hours, well, that's it. And unlike other portable systems that Nintendo released way back in the past that used double A's where you could actually just switch the batteries out, I imagine this is going to be a built-in battery system just like the 3DS. And while the 3DS has a far longer battery life, this one really doesn't. And that's going to affect a lot of people, whether Nintendo or any other consumer out there wants to admit that or not. Negative number 3, the price is just a little bit too high. $299 American for a video game console probably isn't the worst thing in the world, but taking into consideration that its direct competition, the PlayStation 4 and Xbox One, can be had for far cheaper prices, that means you're going to be buying a console that not only isn't seemingly as powerful as those ones, but it's a lot more expensive. That's kind of bad. And honestly, I get it. You know, the first day one sales are probably going to sell out, and that's going to be great, but you got to take into consideration that as we go farther down the line, every single month after that release, we're probably going to dip in sales more and more, which is exactly what happened with the Wii U. And that's not cool because I really don't want to relive those days again. Negative number 4. Now, this largely might seem like a personal point, but it really isn't. There's no D-pad on this console. That's weird. Every Nintendo console Nintendo has ever released has a directional pad, and there's a reason for that. What they have on the Nintendo Switch are 4 individual buttons, and that's a mistake completely. Try and play Super Mario Bros. Without a directional pad and just use buttons, and what you'll find is that there's no rollover. You see, on a directional pad in the direct center, there's kind of like a hinge, this pinpoint that doesn't go down all the way. It allows you to move your finger from one side to the other with just a little swipe of your thumb. But when you get rid of that and have buttons, it doesn't work the same way. It doesn't have that kind of roll, and it makes it a lot more difficult for people to play with a direction. This is unfortunate because this is something that Nintendo has seemingly understood for years, but have given it up because I guess they can. Negative number 5. There doesn't seem to be enough third-party titles on the Switch. And this is kind of unfortunate. While we did see FIFA and we saw Skyrim, we didn't see games like Battlefield or Call of Duty. We didn't see a good announcement for Red Dead Redemption 2. Heck, I would even take Grand Theft Auto 5 on the Switch because having a portable version of Grand Theft Auto 5 would be amazing. But we didn't see anything like that. The games they did announce were okay, but we need more of them. And not just because I want them, but it's because that's what the consumers want. Sure, Nintendo first-party games are going to be amazing. And you know what? Splatoon 2 is probably going to be a fantastic game in its own right, but unfortunately there are many people out there that want other games that the Nintendo Switch is not providing. And it would have a supreme advantage because it's a portable system. Negative number 6. The Nintendo Switch doesn't seem to have enough launch games. You don't believe me? Here's a picture of all the games being released. No, I'm kidding. Here's the actual picture. And from what I'm to understand, it doesn't get much bigger by the end of 2017. Sure, there's going to be a lot of really good Nintendo first-party games, but like I said earlier on, you need that third-party impact. You need way more games coming out, because fewer games means less interest, and less interest means a heck of a lot less sales. Negative number 7, the storage space is simply inadequate. Look, I've got a Wii U and it has the exact same amount of storage space as they're giving out with the Switch. And unfortunately, I've run out of space on my Wii U. I've actually had to cycle through games and delete certain things. I had downloadable items that I just can't use because I don't have enough space, and there's a lot of problems with that. The Switch is a portable device and it needs far more space. And honestly, because a lot of people out there assume because it's used in cartridge formats that it doesn't really matter, it does. Sure, maybe a cartridge format's going to be 64 gigs large or whatever it's going to be, but most games out there, like Grand Theft Auto 5, utilize 70 gigs at least on the PC version of the game. And going through to the future with downloadable content, map packs, and stuff like that, you're going to need a lot of space. Save spaces and stuff like that, they're not going to take up a lot of space, a couple megabytes at best. Maybe some small indie games won't take up a lot of space, but the larger games, that's going to take up a lot more. And basically, from what I can tell looking at the system, it's not going to really be able to download many games because it just doesn't have the space to do that. Negative number 8. Now this is a positive for us consumers, but in reality this is a bad thing for Nintendo. Zelda Breath of the Wild is coming out on the exact same day on Switch that is coming out on the Wii U. The Wii U doesn't have the biggest audience in the world, but it does have about 10 million people, and those 10 million people are more likely to buy it on a console they already own. Now, if there's a limited stock supply of Nintendo Switches when they get released in stores, and people really want to buy that game, they're probably going to buy it on the system they already own. In the past, we've seen this happen with the GameCube. With the release of Zelda Twilight Princess, it was available on the Wii and the GameCube as well, but the difference was they came out a month apart. It was first available on the Wii, and then it came out on the GameCube a month later. This isn't the story for this instance. We're actually getting a game at the exact same time, and that might harm Nintendo more than they may realize. And my final negative? They're not killing off the 3DS. That seems weird. You gotta think about it like this. If the Switch is supposed to be a portable system and home console all at the same time, the Nintendo Switch's biggest competition is the Nintendo 3DS. The 3DS is the best-selling video game console this generation, and if Nintendo doesn't get rid of it or stop supporting it, what you're gonna have is a bunch of people instead getting 3DSs and not getting Switches. I know this is probably gonna benefit Nintendo because they'll sell 3DSs, but the 3DSs aren't selling nearly as much as they used to, and the Switch is a hot, brand new item that everyone could get behind. The moment they forget about the 3DS is the exact moment they start selling way more Switches. That's really important. Now, if I take into consideration all of those negatives and just look at the current market and the trends and everything that's going on in the gaming industry, I don't think the Nintendo Switch is going to be successful. I think it might sell more than the Wii U, but it definitely isn't going to be that popular. Initially, it's going to sell out, of course, because it's a Nintendo product and a lot of marketing budget's been put behind it, but as time goes on, we're probably not going to see these things fly off the shelves, and it might repeat what the Wii U did. I didn't want to make a video to just complain about Nintendo or the Switch. I wanted to make a video to offer some solutions to Nintendo. So here are some ideas I have that might help Nintendo out. Solution number 1, Zelda Breath of the Wild being sold as a combo bundle for the Wii U and Switch. Look, Nintendo, what you guys did was amazing. The fact that you were willing to release this game on the Wii U when you could have easily just sold it as a Switch title is a promissory note to the consumers that bought the Wii U. That should really be mentioned, because while other companies like Sony released The Last Guardian on the PlayStation 4 when we originally expected it to come out on the PlayStation 3, you guys stood by your word. Why won't you work? But one thing that I really think should happen is that Zelda Breath of the Wild should probably come out as a combo bundle so that people that get the Wii U version have a reason to get the Switch. And for people that have the Switch version, they'll be able to play it on the Wii U, giving it some extra sales maybe. Honestly, at the end of the day, this only benefits you because there's a lot more people out there that own Wii U's, and if they have just one more reason to buy a Switch, that's probably in your favor. Solution number 2. A lot of people out there are already complaining about having a paid online service for the Nintendo Switch. Now, I didn't add that as a negative because, well, everybody else already has a paid online service from PlayStation 4 to Xbox One, and Nintendo doing it really doesn't worry me too much as long as they do it well. But offering 2 downloadable games per month that apparently you don't keep after those months are up, well, that's not very good. And in fact, the method you're trying to do is just copy exactly what Sony and Microsoft already do with their systems, which is okay for them, but you guys can do better. Here's something I think you guys should do instead. I'm calling this idea Nintendo Museum. Now, Nintendo Museum is a Netflix-like service that gets bundled on top of the paid monthly service fees that you're going to attach to the Nintendo Switch. But the difference is, unlike copying exactly what Netflix does with those really expensive servers streaming all that information to people all over the world, what you guys do is just give the ability to download any small file ROM package directly to the Switch itself. Netflix shows are megabytes large, some are even gigs, and to stream all the information takes a lot of time and it takes a lot of energy. But not Nintendo games. Nintendo games are really small, and basically the idea is you download a game onto the Switch and it has a monthly service fee attached to it, and that means it only lasts for a month and it has to go online and reconnect to make sure that that game stays stable and online and active. As long as people are connecting to the internet once a month, they'll be able to download as many games as they want and keep playing them through this service. One criticism might be that Sony is already doing this with the PlayStation 4, but it's a little bit different. The service they have, you have to pay additional on top of the PlayStation Network service charges, and, well, well, you have to stream it. You don't actually download any of the games. This way you'll be able to save so much server costs because you're just letting the software in the actual Switch play the games themselves. It shouldn't take much to do, and it will be a really big boom. I think it would be one of the most popular things you guys would ever do on a console. Solution 3, pay for the porting of indie games onto the Switch. Go out there right now and start talking to a whole bunch of indie game developers and just offer them the cost it would take to just transfer whatever game they're making onto the Switch, including some older ones, like Undertale, The Witness, or Bastion. If those games came out on the Switch, it would make for a much larger library with a lot of really great games that a lot of people still haven't played yet. Solution 4, fan games. Offer the developers of games like another Metroid 2 remake the ability to have their games downloaded for free and exclusively on the Switch. See, that way a whole bunch of people will be able to play these games, but only on the Switch, and it helps support Nintendo even more. And what's great is you didn't pay to develop the game, so you're going to save a lot of costs. Solution 5, throw in 1-2 Switch. Right away, a bunch of people will get a bundled game, and that's already a perk, but there's also another bigger reason for wanting to throw in this game. This is a very physical game, one that people can take anywhere and show to all of their friends. See, the Wii was so popular in my family because many family members came to my house and others and saw people playing Wii Sports, which was the bundle game in with the Wii. Now imagine a Wii Sports-like game that was portable, that you could take anywhere. Everyone would be playing this all over the place, at least you would assume so, as long as it's bundled in with the actual console itself. If it doesn't get bundled in, it's not going to nearly get as many sales as you probably hope it will. So honestly, folks, Nintendo, you're listening, you gotta bundle it in. It only makes sense. Solution 6, bundle in a Wii Sports remake title. All you need to do is just take what you've already created with Wii Sports Resort, and even Wii Sports Club, and just kind of combine them into a new collector's version just made for the Switch. Imagine a whole bunch of people taking their Switches with them out in public and playing those really fun, visually engaging games with their groups of friends. It would convince a whole bunch of people that they too need a Switch. And believe me, just like 1-2 Switch, I think a lot of people would see that and want to get one of those systems. And finally, at number 7, I think it's time Nintendo discontinues the 3DS. Look, the 3DS has lived an amazing life with tons of great games, but when a customer goes to the store in a month or two, they're going to see a 3DS beside a Switch and get confused. That can't happen. Nintendo needs to be firm on the message that the Switch is the new console that not only does everything the 3DS does, but it does everything a home console does. It needs to offer a solution that nobody even knows they needed a solution to. It needs to be the thing that does everything. And as long as the 3DS is being sold directly beside the Switch, customers are going to get confused and it's not going to be good. You might just replicate exactly what happened with the Wii U. And I don't think you want to do that. So those are my suggestions, and I really hope Nintendo utilizes some of them, because at the end of the day, I firmly believe that the potential for this system is immense. I think it has the ability to outsell the Wii and even the NES, but only if it's done right. Nobody's ever attempted this home console and portable console all in one before quite like this, and of all the companies to ever attempt it, Nintendo's the one that could make it successful. So, until then, there's really nothing for us to do but wait and see what happens. And I'll be waiting to get mine in the store as soon as it comes out.